I've been in this business probably for 50 years. This hatchery started in 1978, one of the very first shellfish hatcheries on the West Coast. In 2007, we hit a stage where we couldn't grow any larvae at all. We went into 2008 thinking, well, that was just a bad dream, but 2008 was a horrible year for us. And it was really at that point that we knew we had a problem. We get our water from Netarts Bay. I think scientists just thought that the pH of the ocean would never be an issue. But they started finding out that the dissolved CO2 levels were extremely high.
Mark's story is not unique. Not only does carbon pollution lower the ocean's pH, it changes the climate. People all over the world are suffering from severe droughts, reduced crop yields, longer fire seasons, and vanishing snowpack.
Well, if nothing is done to reduce greenhouse gases, nothing is done to reduce carbon, what climate scientists are projecting into the future are things like temperature increases, sea level rise, various risk of extreme climate activities that will happen, and these are going to cause real cost to businesses and households across the world.
Scientists have warned for decades that carbon dioxide pollution would dangerously change our climate. And yet the world burns fossil fuels faster every year. Our movement is fighting tirelessly to sustain the planet for future generations. So how can we leverage our efforts to bring pollution under control? Perhaps it's time to address the problem at its source. Climate change is not a problem of too few hybrid electric cars or of too many gas pipelines. This is a problem of accountability. The fossil fuel industry doesn't cover all of its business expenses. The rest of us do, when billions of our tax dollars pay for superstorm cleanup, drought relief, and wildfire control.
If you put a price on carbon, you make people realize that using something that has carbon content is actually more expensive than they realized to begin with. But it's up to them, either businesses or households, to actually figure out what is the best way that they want to deal with it.
Economists across the political spectrum say that the clear way to hold polluters accountable is with a price on carbon. If we could hold polluters accountable for their own costs, the bad stuff would get more expensive. And when energy providers invest in cleaner alternatives, the good stuff would get cheaper. In Oregon, a young organization, Oregon Climate, is bringing together committed volunteers, businesses, and community leaders and uniting them behind a simple idea: to put an end to free carbon dumping by charging companies more for choosing dirty energy and then returning that money to everyone. The plan is simple. Oregon can put an end to free carbon dumping with a simple fee. Polluters would pay a specific price for each ton of carbon dioxide, and the price would rise every year in predictable increments. Then, consumers and businesses would be rewarded for conservation, and clean alternatives to fossil fuels would become cost competitive. Meanwhile, the millions of dollars in revenue would be distributed evenly to every Oregonian as a cash dividend, ranging from $500 to $1,500 per person per year. We can use this money to offset the growing costs of climate change and ease the transition to a clean energy economy. In just our first year, Oregon Climate has united thousands of people behind this idea, and our numbers are growing every day. As a part of our grassroots campaign, we're lobbying our legislators, hosting phone banks, and going door to door to build support for a carbon price and dividend policy. If Oregon adopts this policy, we can prove that the climate crisis need not be solved on the backs of low-income families, and that there is a fair, effective, market-based approach to reducing carbon pollution.
It's not like the other things we debate in politics that we can stand on either side. I think the risk of doing nothing is so huge, so costly, so dramatic of a change.
And this is where you come in. If we build momentum behind this idea with a broad base of people like you, we can force decision makers in Oregon to take notice. It only takes one state to build a model of effective climate policy. If we unite and ask for that policy by name, we can win it. So join us. Climate change is a real problem. Now is the time for a real solution.